Okay, so today we will be talking about STL and its application mostly. So STL is like a library which gives you a lot of different features readily available to you. So we would be talking about problems today and how we can use the constructs available in STL to solve those problems. Okay. So let's start with the problem itself. Let's say you are at a shop and you are given n items in the shop. The ith of the item price is a of I. Okay, so you are given a of 1, a of 2, so on up to a of n. Okay, so the n prices to items in the shop is given to you. You can buy one item only once, and you are given in total b money, like you have b budget with you and the prices of items are given. Now you want to find out the maximum number of items you can buy. Okay, so given n items, given b budget, you have to buy as many items as you can from the shop. So what should you be doing? uh, Anyone having any idea how to solve this one? Sort. Okay, so what we can do is very simply use the idea that let's take an example. Let's suppose you have 3, 2, 1. Okay, these are the prices and you have prefix some lower bound. Okay, these are like overkills, but let's talk about this. So you are having a1, a2, an, and you have b budget. Now suppose these are the three items and you have three money with you, so you definitely would not be buying this item with cost 3, right? You'd rather take this item with 1 and 2 so that you get two items rather than having one, right? So it is quite easy to observe that the cheaper items you get, the more item you can have, right? So this is like a quick observation that you can look into the problem, that the smaller the price are, if you take that, you will be left with more money and the same amount of flexibility for the rest of the items. Okay, so take the smallest one as long as you can. So what we do is we are given this array, we sort it. Okay, so we sort it into another form. Let's call that some a. So we are calling it the same names, but it's just the sorted form of it. Okay, and once it's sorted, what we do is we do a linear loop from the front. Prefix sum and lower bound is not needed for this case. Okay, so what we can do is we can find out how many of the first items can you buy with b items. So you take the first one, subtract it from b, and you see if you are left with something positive. If yes, then it's okay to take the first one. You take out the second one as well. If it's still positive, you can solve the problem. If you take the third one as well, you see that okay, this becomes negative, so you cannot take the third one. So only two items you can take, right? Is this idea clear to all? So can someone tell me what's the time complexity for this problem? So how many of you have gone through the rundown STL rundown video on the platform? Sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the complexity of this would be n log n, because you're sorting and then you're running a linear loop. So it's n log n plus n, but we remove the lower order terms, right? So in the first few sessions, I would be going through the basics of like time complexity as well, because that would give you a good practice. Later on, we can just directly write the time complexity. So this can be removed because this is of lower order term. So it's n log n. Okay. Now we tweak the problem a bit. So this was the first variant of it. Everybody clear with the idea of this problem? Can I have a +1 on the chat if everybody is clear? Like, let's have a +1 from everyone once and then we can move on. So feel free to write in the chat any doubt you have, and make sure you write your doubts because you are here to learn. This is a course where you can like ask your doubts freely. So don't think that if you don't ask doubts here, you will be left with that doubt forever. Okay? So make sure you ask those. So now we change the question a bit. So this was the easy variant of the problem. Let's try to tweak it a bit. Let's say you are given, instead of one budget, you are given B1, B2, B3, so on up to BM. Okay. So let's write it in a separate slide. You are given n items with cost A1, A2, AN, and you are given M budgets B1, B2, BM. Okay. So these are the budgets given to you. Now, for each of the budget, you have to tell me how many items can you take. Okay. So you have n items and M budgets given to you. For each of the budget given, you have to tell me how many items can you take from the original array. And let me give you the constraints as well. So n would be something like 10 to the power 5 and M would be something like 10 to the power 5. So how do we solve this one? Any ideas? Yep, Shashi Prakash, that's okay. Okay. So some of you are giving the correct ideas. So okay. A lot of different ideas, but yeah, more or less all of you agree that we first should sort the array, right? Because anyways, for all of any individual one, we had to sort it. So we first sort it. Okay. So we have the sorted format of the numbers. Now, for each of the number that you have, if you do a linear scan like we were doing initially, what would be the time complexity be if you're doing a linear scan for all of the numbers, all of the budgets given? N into M, right? Because it's order n for each of the budget and it can go for order n for each of the, like this can be very large and you might be able to take all the numbers, so it will take order n. Okay. So if you do it in the brute way, so by brute way I mean to say the previous logic that we discussed, n log n plus n into m. Okay. So n into m would be the complexity in brute way. Now we want to optimize on this. Now we make some quick look at the values that are being used. So when we are using values to judge whether BI is sufficient or not, what we look at is either we take this element or we take this element or we take this much element or we take this much element, right? So these individual value are not that useful. Instead, the prefix sum of this array is more useful, right? Because those are the things that by which we are deciding can we take that item or not. Okay. So we convert this array to its prefix array form as well. So in the demo course, there was a prefix sum videos present. However, prefix sum is nothing but having the sum of first I numbers in the P of I. So we create a P array, which is in which ith element would be summation of AI from I equal to 1 to, sorry, J, let's name it J, from J equal to 1 to I, right? This is what will be stored in ith index. So we build the prefix sum array of this. Now, in this prefix sum array, we need to check for the last element. Okay, let's take an example and that will make things clear. Let's say you have the element cost to be 2, 3, 5, 10. Okay, these are the elements and we have already sorted it. We make a prefix sum of this, so it will be 2, 5, 10, 15. And let's suppose we have a budget of 7. Now, how many items will we be able to take in this case? Can all of you write the answer quickly? Like if you have 7 budget and you have to take items from these, how many maximum items can you take? 2, right? So one way in which we were earlier deciding it is by looking at these values and summing from the start, right? Now we can also find the last index where the value is less than equal to 7, right? Is this clear? That in the prefix array, if we can find the last index whose value is less than equal to 7, Oh, sorry, this will be 20. Nicely pointed out. Thank you for this. Yeah, this will be 20. So in this prefix array, you will have to find the last element which is less than equal to 7. Is everyone clear up to this, that if we can find the last element which is less than equal to 7 in this array, we will get the number of items, because this position means that these many items are the items that we are taking, and that will be the maximum items that we can take, because we are implementing the same logic but in just in a prefix array form. So we are taking some prefix whose sum is 5, and we know that 5 we can take out from the 7, but we cannot take this one, because if we take this one it will become 10, but we cannot take 10 because we have only 7. So is this logic clear, that if in this prefix sum array we can find the element with less than equal to 7 value, last element, we are done with the problem. Is it clear to all? Can everyone write it? I think a lot of you are getting it, but I think it should be clear with everyone. It's clear with all, right? So in the prefix sum array, if we can find the last element or the number of elements, okay, I will tell that. Okay, so now I think everyone is clear with that. If any one of you has any doubt, please feel free to ask that in the chat. Now, let's say you're given an array. Okay, now let's like generalize this problem. Given an array, you have to find the last, so it's sorted. You have to find the last index less than equal to 7, less than equal to some x. How do you find this particular thing? Can someone give me the solution to this on the chat? So given a sorted array, you have to find the index of the last element which is less than equal to x. Okay, all of you write binary search, lower bound. So we are talking about STL only. Lower bound -1, upper bound -1. Okay, two different answers that we have. Okay, binary search is correct, obviously, but we currently are not talking about binary search. We will discuss binary search in details later on. So we just want to use STL as much as possible. So obviously binary lower bound and upper bound implement binary search inside it, but what from binary search we mean that we can find this element in log n. That's what we mean. But there are two syntaxes: lower bound in STL, so this was covered in the rundown; upper bound. Okay, so these are the two things present. Now there are 2-3 options that you can take. Either you use lower bound in this problem or upper bound in this problem. Okay, you're going with then it's lower bound. Okay, that's a complex logic. We just want, like, it's just one liner, like you don't need that much logic. You don't want to write if else too many times. Okay, yeah, so the correct answer is upper bound -1. It's not lower bound -1. Now let me be very clear with what these mean. So lower bound finds you the last element, or in fact not the last element, the first element which is greater than equal to some particular value x. Okay, upper bound finds you the first element in the array which is greater than x. Okay, we want the last element which is less than equal to x. Okay, so what we do is we use upper bound. Okay, I'm not writing bound. So upper bound of x will give you the position I such that its value is greater than x, but this is the first index, right? So the index I minus 1, the value at that must have been less than equal to x, right? Then only this is the first one, right? So if we want to find the last index which is less than equal to x, we can use upper bound to find the index that is greater than x, and then go one unit back. So that upper bound -1 will work. Okay. Now in this question we don't really want the index, right? We want the number of items. So how do we find the number of items in one line, like the syntax of it? Can anybody quickly specify that on the chat? Okay, distance. Okay, there is a distance function. Distance function is like, okay, if you index +1, Okay, that's a good idea. Right. Star of upper bound minus 1, no, that's not correct. Star, so upper bound returns you an iterator. So let me quickly. Okay. So given an so is the screen is visible to all, right? Let's use some duplicates. So in this problem, if you see the real scenario, no items would be of zero cost, right? So you would have distinct elements. So in this problem, particularly lower bound and upper bound will both work because the element itself cost positive. So the prefix sum array will always be increasing, like strictly increasing. But in case you have something like this and you want to find the last element which is less than equal to 4, so what you can do is, so let me give you the syntax quickly. So this is how you write. So let's use upper bound of arr.begin. So arr.begin and arr.end are two iterators on STL, and these are very in details covered in the rundown video. And let's try to search for 4, and also let's call the lower bound. Just a quick iteration on this. And if you want to find the index, what we do is we generally print. So this would be IT2, this will be IT1. IT2 minus arr.begin. So notice that if on an array, if you find the iterator to this particular point, say this is the iterator is pointing to this element, okay? And if you do, so if you subtract the arr.begin, so arr.begin points at this, okay? And this element points at this. So if you subtract, it will give you the number of, like, it will give you the index of this particular element. So it will give you a zero index value of the index, okay? So if we just quickly do this, let's quickly print this one. It should not take much time. So this would be IT1. Let's print the IT1 first. Let's reuse that. This would be IT2. Yeah, let's print this. Okay. So lower bounds finds you 3. So 3 is this particular index. So lower bound finds you the first element which is greater than or equal to 4, which is 4, obviously it is present in this array. And if you find the first element which is strictly greater than 4, you find 5. So if you had to find the index of this particular element, because this is the last element, does an inbuilt search work for a greater than, what is a in this particular scenario? Yeah, inbuilt search work for any value. Like if it's a value, so it's the value that you're comparing, right? So if you have those, if the array is built, if the array build supports that data structure, then like the particular data type that you're talking about, it will work. Yeah, the search element will work with that. If you just write 1A18, that will work. So it will convert it to that particular type. So this has to be long in that case. Okay, if you're saving things greater than 10 to the power 9, you need to keep it in long. So these are C++ syntax things. So this first week you should be focusing more on building these things. At least like once you get strong with these things, the rest of the course you will be able to focus on the logic part rather than the code part. Okay, so take this first week and like master the constructs and coding syntaxes of C++. That's why we have kept the first week a bit light. Okay. So if you want to find the number of elements, so let me give you like a very simple construct. Is iterator a wrong syntax? No. So let's suppose if you want to print, let's print star of IT1. What does this give you? It will give you 5. What is that? So the iterator points to this element. This is the index 6, and star of IT1 will give you the value at that index. So iterator mostly works like pointers. Okay. So if you know this, for pointers, ampersand gives the address. So star of some pointer means value at that pointer, and at ampersand of something means address of. So these are two operators that are frequently used. Okay. So these are the values. So from this you can use the values if you want to. So in this question we had to find the number of. So let me quickly talk about one more thing. In this question, finding this index works, but we can also find the number of elements less than equal to 7, right? that's also a potential solution, right? Number of elements less than equal to 7. Is it clear with everyone that if you find the number of elements in this prefix sum array less than equal to 7, we are done with the answer? Because that's like counting these many elements, right? Is this clear to all? So what we do is, so note that, so you have upper bound, right? So I'm not writing arr.begin, arr.end, but if I call upper of some value x, okay, on some a, let's like, I'm just writing shorthand syntaxes now, and on an array a with value x, okay, and I subtract with a.begin. Okay. So this will give you the number of elements less than equal to some particular value x. Similarly, if you use everything same over here, if you use lower bound a comma x minus a.begin, it will give you the number of elements less than x. So whenever you need to count in an array number of elements less than equal to x, less than x, or you want to find the first element which is greater than equal to x, or greater than x, or less than equal to x, or less than x, you should be using lower bound and upper bounds. Okay, so these are very frequently used. And also there is a construct for sorting. So once you go through the a rundown video, you will be very clear with the syntaxes. So I'm not very like deeply going into the syntax in the live session, but you can go through the video, that it's all there. In sets or maps, we can find number of elements less than a value in order 1. No, that's not possible. Like if you do some pre-processing, then you can, but it's not like dynamically you cannot query that. Like in this case, we are given a B and you want to find it using binary search, right? So we will come to sets and maps in this session. Let's move with the first, complete this problem. So now coming back to the problem, we had n values of the cost and m budgets. So what we do is, given these costs, we first of all sort these. So no, yeah, so upper bound, so the function that I'm talking about is not this. This is like a shorthand that I'm using in this session, in this for writing quickly, but actual syntax is this: upper bound arr.begin, arr.end. This is available in STL. Okay, now let me quickly take 1 minute to just quickly iterate on this code that I'm using. So there are these 2 lines and things over here. So this is the header file that you should directly import, so that all the STL constructs are readily available to you. If you are doing competitive programming, or you're doing any contest or coding round, if you import this header file, you will be like good with any construct needed. Okay, for most of the cases. Using namespace std is like defining a namespace. So all these scene, cout that we use in C++ are defined in namespace std. So you will have to use that. All these lower bound and upper bound are also defined inside std. So you will have to use that. There is this one line which you will see in a lot of different codes, and I would advise you to use it in our platform as well. So this one line over here, or it's like three commands. This optimizes the code for input output time. Okay, so if you're getting a time limit exceeded, you should try to use these 3 things. So I'm quickly pasting that on chat if you want to have a look at this. So basically the IOStream file interacts with stdio before doing C in C out. So we make it not sync with stdios to make it faster. That's it. Okay. And like you can just create a function, and inside that you can solve. So this is what you can use as a construct. Also, if you're using some ID, you can create snippets. So like for personally my case, I keep snippets just to directly use this one and like start with this file to code. Also for competitions, I have different snippet. Like for competitions, I have a longer snippet which helps me to code faster. But I would advise you to, for this course, use this normal snippet. Okay, like you can build your own snippets. That's not a problem. So in Sublime, it allows snippets, and other IDs as well, it's possible. So that's all. Okay, now coming back to the topic. Anything you have doubt in this problem? So what we are using is, first we sort this array, then for each of the budgets we can use lower bound. How to use to do using binary search? So lower bound, so this, don't worry about this, we will talk about how binary search will work in this case in the session of binary search. But for now you can take it like this, that okay, this lower bound is finding things using binary search internally. So in problem solving, a better way to look at things as, you can first of all learn the thing as a black box. Okay, this can give me this and this, so how to use this to solve this problem, something like this. And then when you get a good grasp on that, you can look into the internal syntax. So lower bound implements a binary search. We will go into the binary search part in a separate lecture, in a separate live session, so we will cover that. For binary search, you will just like check the middle part. If it's already, if it's greater than 7, you go to the right, or else you go to the left. That's all what we are doing. So we will discuss binary search separately. So STL and binary search, STL and binary search is a slightly coupled topic, but we still cover STL first, because you can take this for black box now and then understand them later on. Okay, you can implement your own lower bound and upper bound if you wish for. Does using scanf printf over C in C out helps in reducing time complexity? It helps, but once you include those 3 lines, they become comparable. Like if the lines that I gave you, those 3 lines in the code, if you use that, the time of scanf printf and C in C out becomes comparable. Like they are almost same, so it will be negligible. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we were coming to that. So now, what is the complexity for this one? So let's talk about what we are doing first. So we had this A, we first of all sorted it to, let's suppose, A dash, which is in sorted form, right? We then built a prefix sum on this to get an array P, right? And then there are M such BIs that are given to you. For each of the BI, you are doing a, let's call this, it's not lower, it's upper, right? We are doing upper bound, or we are doing binary search or upper bound. Okay. So now let's decompose the complexity for each of the part. So these are all sequential moves, right? So first of all, sorting takes order n log n, right? There is an internal function for sort as well. Don't write your own sorting algorithm. There is a very like standard STL sort available, and the syntax for that is covered in rundown. I'm not going into the syntax too much in this session. Try to focus on the ideas, what we are using, how we are using the things in the process. Okay. The prefix sum building part takes order n, because you can run a single loop. Like if you have a particular array, so for this particular element in the prefix array and this original array, you can get this particular value from sum of this and this. Okay, so this takes order n. And for each of the BI, we are doing one search over here. Now this upper bound uses binary search, and binary search has a complexity of order log n. Okay, so each of the search will take order log n. Now there are m different elements, so it will take m log n in total. Okay, so the total complexity will be n log n plus m log n. So it will be m plus n log n order. Is this part clear to all or not? Any doubts in this problem? How was m into n? What is m into n in this one? The previous one. Okay, so for the previous one, we were like, for each of the BI, we were looping on the like a dash array. That's how we got n into m. But to optimize that, we build prefix sum and use lower bound that is available in STL. So sorting, upper bound, all of them are available in STL. Okay. Yeah. So initially what we were doing is we were sorting it and building the a dash. Now for each of the BI, we were like looping from the start. So what we had this idea, we were looping from the start and getting the values. Okay. So can we move to the next problem then? Everybody clear with this problem? Can I have a plus one? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now we will do one longer problem, but with a lot of different things. So next we will start with, let's say, designing some data structure. So we have a sort of collection. We don't know what that is. So let's call this a bag. Okay. This is a bag. What we don't know what it does. So we have to design this bag. Okay. Now I will give you some operations to support, and you will have to design it. How will they work? Will there be additional lectures on prefix and suffix sum techniques? No, it's available on the demo course. It will even be added to the second week before binary search and all those things, because that's how we have ordered the course. So we will add those to the week 2 of the current module as well, but you can access that from demo course as well. So there is no extra, like there is no additional material. If you have any doubts, you can ask them in the forum. Okay, so we have a bag. We want to support some operations. Okay, let's try to work with the operation. So let's suppose we want to insert some element x into the bag, and we would query what is the minimum element inside the bag present. Okay, so let's suppose these are the only two operations that you need. How will we solve this problem? So like there will be a lot of, so what is this question? If I formulate this problem, so you are given like few different operations to be supported. So either it can be like 1x, it says insert x into the bag, it's initially empty. Okay, then it can be like 2, so you have to print the minimum element present in the bag, like what is the value of the minimum element in the bag. So let's take 1, so let's take 3 1 2. So I first insert 3, then I query, then I insert 1, then I query, then I insert 2, then I query. So for each of the query, the answer would be like, once I have inserted 3, the query will be only 3, right? When I insert 1, the answer for this query will be 1. When I insert 2, even after this, answer for this query is 1. Okay, so how can you support this back? Like we would try to create a structure to support these operations, right? So how can we do this? Any ideas? If x are different, okay, that's overkill. The first one is overkill. The Shashi's answer is correct. Min heap, no. These are all overkill. These are all like overkill for this particular problem. You don't need priority queue or min heaps. So in general, no. So this is like this is not a STL problem for now, at least. Okay. So you will, so try to use the most, not even vector to be precise. You don't even need vector. So you don't need to use STLs in every problem. You should try to use the minimum. Yeah, so you can save the elements in vector and you can simply maintain minimum. Yeah, that's correct. So why even keep the elements? You don't need to return the element, right? You only need to return the minimum. So no need to keep them as well. Okay. So try to use the most simple structure that you can create. You don't need to go into complex structures directly, because even if it passes, like that should not be your attitude. You should try to like design the most optimal one. In competitions, if you're getting something, if you have thought of some idea and now you don't want to waste time on thinking on one, that's okay. But if when you're solving things, you should try to think of optimal. If can you do better than that, because that leads to a lot of learning. So in this problem, you don't actually need anything else. You just can create a structure and code this. So I will without any like, I will just quickly create this bag itself. Like it's just few lines of code. So what we can do is we can create a variable called minval, okay, which will save the value of the minimum of the bag that has been currently created. So let's initialize the minval with int max. Okay, I'm assuming that things will fit in integer. Now, if you want to support some insert element, so if you want to insert x, what we can do is minval is equal to min of minval and x, right? So what this does is, with the new element, we just maintain the minimum. Like either it will be the previous minimum or it will be the new element, right? That's it. Then if you want to get the minimum, oh, it will not take any operator. It will not take any index. You can just quickly return minval, right? Is this clear to all? Why it will be int min? So we are taking minimum repeatedly, right? So when there is no initial element, so it should be maximum. Then only like when you insert the first element, it will become that element, right? So we are taking minimum, so it should be int max. Is it clear, Siva? Right. So only if it's infinity first, then only when you insert the first element, it will become that element, right? By taking minimum. So this is how you can maintain minimum. No need to go into priority queues and sets and all. No need to do such complex things. Okay? So what if, let's say, we want to maintain a maximum of the set as well? How we can do that? Anyone? This should be, yeah, exactly. Take another variable for like max, right? Same idea. Okay. So I'm not coding that one. Like this is very standard now. Yeah. Yeah. Just initialize it with int min. Okay. And keep them and maintain the max like we did in the other case. Okay. So now let's add more operations to this. Let's suppose if you want to support finding out the sum of elements in the bag, can we do that as well? How can we do that? Okay, same, right? Is these three clear to everyone? That you can also create a variable called sum, and like when an element inserts, just add it to the sum, and whenever you need sum, you can just return that value, right? Everyone clear on these three or not? Make sure that you write -1 if you are not, because it should be clear. Okay. Not even if you don't know the exact syntax on C++ or not, it's okay. If you are understanding the logic, that's fine. Now, let's now change the things a bit. Let's say we want to remove element from this as well. So we had an insert, right? Now we want to create a function which will remove element from this set. Okay. And we want to we will query these three values from the bag. So how can we support this? Set, okay. Multiset seems more appropriate. Set will not so there is a difference between set and multiset. Set does not hold distinct values, like sorry, it holds distinct value. Multiset can have duplicate values. So if I'm inserting the same x twice, it should support that, right? Use list. No, list is not very efficient, because if you have to remove, if you have to remove some particular element, you will have to find that in the list first, right? And that will take an order n. Okay. So we can obviously do it in a lot of different ways, such that this may take order 1 and this might take order n. Okay. So this, we can design something like this as well, but we want to do all of these things in some balanced way, right? So that if irrespective of whatever the query is, the total complexity is still balanced. Okay. Like it's not like shooting too high. So in such data structure designing problems, or like algorithmic designing problems, you should try to balance the time complexities of different operations that you have. So how can we support this? Multi-set is a potential possibility. Anything else? Map. Okay. So I will add one more thing in this particular bag to call for. So I think, so we will add one more query, and then we will go to the, like, how we will implement this. So let's say we want to find one more thing, something called number of distinct element in the bag. So I understand it's becoming complex, but try to think about this. Can you think of something, some way? Set dot size. Okay. Yup. Now I think everybody is saying map. Set will, yes. So you can maintain a separate set for distinct, but you will have to check whether there is something present multiple number of times before deleting it from the set, because you have this remove element, right? So if you keep a set, you will have to also keep a check that, okay, is there more than one element present, or is there exactly one? Then only you will remove it from set, right? So set is not exactly efficient in this particular problem. Map is the correct way to go. Okay, so we will look at how we can do using map. So if you talk about map is nothing but having pairs in a sorted fashion. Okay, let me change this to 5 and have this as 7. Let's take 7 and 3. Okay, so map is nothing but is like a set with pairs, and these values are sorted for sure. Okay, so it's sorted by these things. So these are called keys of the map, and it's sorted by this value. Okay. Now map supports a lot of different operations. We will talk about them, but in general, like if you can create map very easily using some syntax, like it will map this integer to this integer. Okay, so this is how you create maps, and you can like assign the values of maps of 2 to 2, something like that. Okay, so these are syntaxes that have been discussed in the rundown video, so we will anyways code it, so you will get to know about them. Now if we have this map, let's talk about this map. Okay, so now if you want to find the minimum element in this map, how do you find? So what first of all, what do you maintain in the map? Like what is the second value that you maintain? Okay, frequency, that's a good suggestion. Key value pairs, value and frequency, true. So what we will do is, whenever some particular x comes inside the bag, what we will do is we will create a map MP and we will increase its frequency, right? So if we write this thing, what happens is particular like for this element x, so if let's suppose this is x, its frequency will increase to 3. Okay, this is what happens when you do this. So whenever something inserts, we will increase its frequency. Okay, so now these first values are elements and these second values are frequencies. Okay, now so we are maintaining element comma frequency in a map. Now how do we find the minimum element in the map? So iterator is there, yeah, first element. So can you like quickly write this, like let's suppose this is called MP, so can you quickly write the syntax in the chat? If this is MP, how do you get the value of the minimum element? Right, MP dot first. No, MP dot first does not works. MP of begins first works. Star of MP begin works. A star of MP begin will give you the pair, right? So you have to give MP dot begin. There should be a bracket symbol after MP dot begin. But anyways, that's fine. So dot begin is not a value, it's a function actually. And MP dot begins first will give you the this particular value. So this is what we want, right? This particular value. So you can get that using, so MP dot begin will give you the iterator to this element. Star of that will give you this pair, and its first value is the answer. So if you write something like this, MP dot begin, okay, you take star of that and you write a dot and then write first. Okay, this is also correct, but in general you can club this star and dot to this syntax, which is much more efficient in C++. Okay, so this is how you can get the first element. Okay, how do you get the max element now? Can someone give me a one-liner syntax for this? No ifs, no. Yep, that's almost correct. Yeah, yeah. So just like we have begin over here, so begin iterator to any like construct in STL gives you the iterator to the first element. Okay, but MP, if you call MP dot end, it will give you an iterator to the last plus one element, like something over here, which is not an element actually. So MP dot end is not correct. MP dot end exists over here. It's not like this element. Okay, MP dot begin is this. MP dot end is over here. It's not. It's like some hypothetical address that iterator that it internally implements. So we don't really need to know everything internally. We just need to know that it's some element over here which is not valid. You cannot even print the value of str. It will give you a segment for it. Okay? So you need to go to this. So one way you can do is you can find the iterator to this, do a -1, and then you can like find its first, something like this. Okay, this also works. MP dot end -1 will work. Okay, but if you want to do something like a one-liner, you can use something called R begin. Okay, there is a iterator called R begin which gives you reversed begin. So if you take the thing in reversed, it will be this element and its begin will be this. There is something called reversed end as well, which is this element. Okay. So these are the 4 iterators that you will be using frequently in constructs of STL. So make sure you know about them. Okay. So if you go to like if you find mp.rbegin and just print its first value, that will be your max. Okay. This syntax might not be correct in case there are no elements in the set. Okay. So all of these things must be done before you have checked if the map is empty or not, right? In case so since you are erasing elements, the map might become empty. So you should check whether like it's empty or not, right? Or else all of these will give segment fault. Okay. So we have not defined what to return in that case, but it's okay. Is it possible to delete a key pair value? Yes, it's possible. It's possible. We'll talk about all of these things. It's all coming. Let's come to erase. So we can find min, max. Okay. Now, how do you find the sum of the values? Like, you know, the pair and frequencies, right? It's same as previous. No, yeah. So if you have just this map, you will have to loop over and like you will have to do value multiplied with frequency and sum it over all of the elements, right? But it might take a lot of time. Like it will be linear. So you can, so if you have a map, no one has restricted to you keep another structure, right? You can also keep a variable along with the map, and that variable stores the sum, right? You can keep that logic intact. So we will borrow the sum part from the previous logic, that we will have a variable and we will have that to return the correct value. Okay. So whenever we insert, we add to the sum. Whenever we remove, we subtract it from the sum. So is sum clear to everyone? Like how we will maintain the sum? Create a value. When you insert, add it to the variable. When you remove, subtract it from the variable. Is it clear to all? Can I have a +1 and then we will move to remove? Okay. So now let's discuss this one. So how do you remove from the set? So let me create one. Let's take an hypothetical with this 2 2 4 1 5 1. Okay. So let's suppose these all things were first inserted and then you got something like remove 4. Some operations over here might be done, and then remove 5 and then some operations will be done. So how do you design something for this? Map of x minus minus, if mp of x is equal to 0, remove key. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's quite correct. Anybody else with any other solution? There is one more thing that you need to support in this, Shashi. I think that should be needed. So we don't have a guarantee that the element will exist in this map for sure. Okay. So for that you will have to keep an extra check. Yeah. Okay. So I understand that that's like you have to specify the problem in that sense, but okay. We will have to check that as well, but we can remove it. Okay. So why not just mp of x minus minus? Why not just decrease its frequency and we are done? Why not just decrease it and we are done? Will that work? Like let's suppose after these two queries we query the maximum. Okay. So what happens is when you subtract 4, if you just do this much, this will become 0. Okay. This will become 0. So something over here happens, and then also you subtract 5, you remove 5, so this will also become 0. Then you query max in this portion. This is the stream of queries that are coming in. Okay. So when you query the max, this element will be present in the map. Okay. So if you go with the strategy that we designed using the rbegin, so rbegin will point to this. Okay. But this element is not present actually, right? Because its frequency is 0. So whenever something's frequency becomes 0, you will have to erase it from the map. Okay. That's very important to maintain this min and max that we're talking about. Okay. So whenever things become 0, you remove it from the map. So if you do that, this will not be there, this will not be there. So you will have this 2 and 5 min. So it will be just this much, and you will get this particular. So 2 will be the max and 2 will be min as well. So this will be correct, right? Is everyone clear with this? So MP minus minus by its nature remove, like decreases the frequency, but it will not remove the element. Everyone clear with this or not? I understand there is a lot of syntax in the background that we are talking about, but even if you don't know that, are you like comfortable with the logic or not? That's something that's very important. With practice, you will get a hold on the syntax for sure. Okay, clear with everyone? I see only 6 or 7. It takes order log n time. So most of the operation with map takes order log n. So I see here, okay, so around 10 people. Will mp dot begin plus 1 return the second element? Yes, it will return the second element, but it will take order log n time. Okay, we will code this all, so no worries. Okay, just a minute. Let's complete the last one that we're talking about. This there is one more thing that we need to support, right? Number of distinct element in the bag. How do we do that? Because we'll talk about the syntax for sure. Just let's complete the one more query that we have. So how do we get the number of distinct element in the map? Okay, map.size. Map.size will be sufficient, right? Is this clear to everyone that map.size will give you the number of distinct elements? Because even if you have this, the number of elements over here is 3, right? And since the frequency becomes, when the frequency becomes 0, we are removing it. We are always maintaining the number of elements that are present. So the size of the map will give you the answer. Okay. So these are the logic part of this. Let's quickly code this up. It will not take much time, but there are a lot of things that you need to understand when you are maintaining things. So we will have to keep the sum. So we just create a sum val. Okay. Let's create a map. So I'm assuming everything fits in integer for this problem. If it's more than 10 to the power 9, to be precise, if it's more than 2 into 10 to the power 9, you need to use long. So the sum val needs to be initially 0. So don't forget these constructors. Map by default is always empty. Okay, so STL, so a good thing about STL is it initializes things with like all clear values. So you don't need to worry about those things. If you had to, you can use mp.clear to like flush the every value out of it. It will become just this much. So if you just use, so initially we have just this much as the map, like there is no element in it. Okay. So now let's talk about insert. So when you are inserting, what we do, we just do mp of x plus plus, right? Is this sufficient for insert? Anything else in the insert function? Yep, exactly. You have to also maintain the sum, right? No, so when you are inserting it, like it's something new that is being inserted, right? So there is nothing like to check over there. So you are inserting from outside, that's not a problem. So you have to maintain the sum val that we have maintained, right? So you have to maintain the sum of the set as well when you're inserting. Okay. So now when we are erasing things up, like, so let's not call it erase, let's call it remove. So how do you remove from this? By default, the frequency is 0. Yes. So when we write this, if x is present, it increases its frequency. If it's not, by default, it will create element with 0 and it will increase it to 1. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay. Now when you have to remove the element, first of all, you will have to check, right, whether it's present or not. So what we can do is mp.find is a function that like searches for presence of x in the map. If it's present, it will return you the iterator to it or like a pointer to it. So whenever I'm saying iterator, if you're not compatible with it, think about it in terms of pointer. Okay. So mp.find of x, it will return a iterator to it. And if it's not present, it will return you end. Okay. So if you get mp.end, that means it's not present. So you return because it's not present. Okay. Or else you will do mp of x minus minus. Okay. If mp of x is equal to 0, you erase the value from. So you can erase a particular key from, sorry, it's not mpx, it's, okay. So this is how you can erase a particular key. So it will remove. So in in a map, you can have a particular key only once. So this pair occurs only one. So this x has to be unique. So if you erase it, this particular pair gets removed. Okay. We don't need to use mp dot second minus minus. No. So mp dot second, mp of x dot second. No. mp of x returns the second value. X is the first value, mp of x is the second value. This is how the operator. So in structures you can define this particular operator, right? This is an operator. Okay, note in C++, this is an operator, not a like a some. So how is this implemented? Do you know? Like, okay, no need to go into so much of details, but you can, this index thing is an operator. You can even define it for a custom structure if you want. Okay. No, mp dot here is not needed, but just to show the syntax, I like put it over there. Okay. Now, mp dot erase x removes that element. Is it done? Do we need to do anything else? Right, nice. So if it's not present, we are returning then and there. So if we are over here, that means it's present. So sumval minus equal to. Yeah, right. Everyone clear up to this? So these are, so if you don't know this syntax, don't worry. You will get a hold of these as with practice, but just try to note from the session that, okay, this is there, this is there. Also go through the rundown. So you will not get all the syntax in your memory in one day. It comes from practice. But if you know like something like this exists in map or something like this exists in set, you will be able to use that when it's required. You can at least Google that up, right? So that's something that you should keep in mind. Okay, you can find element, you can erase element. So you have removed. Okay. So how do you find getmin? How do you implement getmin quickly? So we just return. So first of all, if mp.empty, let's suppose we have removed all element and then we call getmin. That means there is no element. So star of begin will not work. Begin is no longer like an element. Begin will become equal to end. Okay. So if mp.empty, this is like a Boolean function to check whether it's empty or not. You can return -1. Like we are returning some value. It might be mentioned. It will be mentioned in the problem. Or else you return mp.begin. So this is a function that retains an iterator. That iterator's first value will be the answer. Okay, so you need to return this. Okay. Similarly, we can do this for max. Everyone clear up to this? This is how you can define rbegin. Okay. If you had to do this in a different way, you can also do this in something like this. So you can define an iterator. So you can write iterators types as well, but we generally use auto IT, so it will automatically typecast the data type into IT. Okay? You don't need to worry about that. So this is present from C++ 11 onwards. So MP, note that mp.end is like one element after the last element. So we have to do IT minus minus to get to the last element. Okay. So keep this thing in mind whenever like you are solving problems. Like mp.end is this element. So you have to do minus minus to come to this element. Okay. So minus minus comes to that element and then you return it is first. Okay. So we are done with get min, get max. Get sum is very trivial. You return this variable. That's it. Okay. So since it's very trivial, get sum. Okay. Now we need to support one more thing, right? Distinct element is just size. I'm not writing that. You can just return mp.size. Let's try to support one more operation. Okay. So let's try to support one complex operation. Given some value x, okay, you need to find the frequency of the smallest element greater than x in the map. Let me go to one. Just a minute. just yeah. So you need to find the one minute. Okay, now so you need to find the frequency of the element just greater than x in the map. Okay, so in case you are given some particular value 4, you have to find the element, the frequency of element just greater than 4 in the map, just greater than equal to 4 in the map. Okay, so that would be this particular value 7. Okay, upper bound, this, there would be a lot of things to consider, so we will go through that. This is correct, but you have to find the frequency of element just greater than equal to x in the map. ITR is equal to find x if ITR plus plus is equal to mp dot end eternal. Okay, this is no, this is, I think this, it's okay. No, no, if it's not present it will return end, right? It will not return the next element. I think it's wrong. So let's talk about this. So over here as well we will need to find the element which is greater than x, greater than equal to x in its key, right? So remember in an array, how do we find the element greater than equal to some particular value x? How do we find that in an array? Which one do we use? Anyone? Okay, it's lower bound. So when you have to find the iterator to the element which is greater than equal to x, you use lower bound. Okay, when it's greater than, you use x, you use upper bound. So we will be using lower bound on maps as well. Okay, so you can find the pair with the key greater than equal to some particular value in maps as well. So anyone knows how to do that? I think one of you wrote the answer already, but there would be cases to handle in this. So let's talk about this in the code. Get frequency of next greater. Okay, this is what we want to implement. Let's suppose these are some hypothetical functions. Let's say you want to find out the frequency of element greater than equal to. So you first of all find out the element. You first find out the iterator to the element which is just greater than equal to x. Okay, in the map. If x is present, then it will return x itself, or else it will be the some bigger value. So auto it equal to. So can somebody write the syntax? So is this correct? Okay, all of you saying no. Okay. Okay. So what is wrong with this? Yeah. Okay. So this was there in the runtime as well. So in maps, you don't use lower bound directly in this form, because this is an external function and it needs random access to indexes in the random access to the iterators in the map in a sequential form. But map is not a serial data structure, or it's not like a sequential data structure. It's a associative container, like we that's there in the video, you can refer to that. What that means is you can get to a particular point using searches, using binary searches. It's like a tree. It's actually implemented using red black trees. So you can get to a point, but you cannot directly jump 5 steps ahead to it. You will have to iterate through the elements. Okay, so there is only bidirectional iterators available. It's not like a random iterator. So you cannot use the syntax. So for the maps, there is a special function already inbuilt, because it's possible to do lower bound on maps since it's sorted. Okay, so this gives you the iterator to the next element. Okay, now what if there is no element after x, like there is no element greater than equal to x? What will the IT return in that case? MP dot end, right? So whenever something is not present, it returns like the element, it returns the MP dot end. So if there is no element greater than x, it returns MP dot end. Okay. So if IT is equal to MP dot end, what do we have? We return -1 or null or something like that. Okay. So it's not, there is no such value. Or else, how do we find the value? We just return. So we got the pair, right? This IT is like an iterator to that pair. How do we return the frequency of that particular pair? Anyone in the chat? Yeah, you can return 0. Okay, then. IT is second, right? Return IT is second. So like even if you don't know, if you want to try, just write in the chat wrong things. That's equally fine. Okay, so don't worry about things. This course is only to learn. No one is going to judge on this course. But if you feel like you should not ask things and you don't learn in this course, then it will be solved. So it's better to make mistakes in this course rather than in actual competition. Okay, but in map, values will be stored in increasing order sequentially, right? Yes. So we want to find the frequency of the next greater value of x. So this lower bound will work to find the like the value greater than, like the element greater than x and its particular frequency, right? So that's what we want, frequency of the next greater element. No, it's not sequentially, it's in a tree form, so you cannot get a random access iterator, but yeah, it is sorted by the key value, and keys are the elements that you are putting in. Is it clear, Amisha? Okay, so that's also, don't forget to check these things because this will be like troublesome. In case there is no element, then you will get like segment faults mostly in problems, or runtime errors in the problems. So make sure you check these now. So this was like a one big design problem that we talked about. So we talked about a lot of different operations to support. Okay, lower bound returns greater than equal to, but if you want only greater than, so should we use upper bound? Yes. So these are the exact purposes of lower bound and upper bound. So if you want to find the like the element which is greater than x, you can use upper bound. Now let's just quickly change this one more thing. So we talked about this as the element which is greater than equal to x, its frequency, right? Now let's suppose I want to find out the element less than equal to x and its frequency we want to return. How do we do that? So what we want to do, I'm copying this particular function of frequency of previous smaller element. How do we do this one? This is important as well. Upper bound -1, right? So same logic that we discussed in the previous problem. You want to find less than equal to, right? So you go to greater than and then come back one step. So to get to greater than, you use upper bound, right? So you can use upper bound to get to the element which is just greater than IT, and then you can subtract 1. But don't do this for sure. Like this is wrong. Don't do this ever. Always before subtracting things from any iterator, you need to check whether like you are already the first element or not. Okay. So if equal values will also come. Yeah. So we need to find less than equal to, right? So if that value is particularly present, so it will return that value. So if IT is equal to MP dot begin, so it's like the first element which is greater than x is the first element of the map itself. So there is no element which is less than equal to x, right? So if this is the case, then you return 0. Okay. Or else if it's not the begin, then only you do IT minus. Be careful with this. This is a very frequent mistake that happens with a lot of people, and like you get a lot of trouble for debugging into this. So keep it a rule before doing plus plus, check if it's check after plus plus if it's becoming end. If you want to subtract, if you want to go back, make sure you check if it's not begin, and then only you subtract. Okay. So keep this a rule in your mind. So what I'm saying is, when you want to go forward, like you have an iterator and you want to move forward, before moving forward, you need to check whether you are already at end, because or else it will not work. Okay. So if x is already present, we want the frequency of x. So I think by that logic, it's correct, right? So greater than equal to x, like why? In the previous function, so you are using lower bound, right? So lower bound gives you the pair. So if let's suppose, I think it's not wrong, because we if this is like, let's suppose 2 comma 3, and we want to use 2 itself, so it will point to this element, so we will return the value of 3. So we want to use the next greater, means it's not like next element, it's like next. Okay, so we are talking about next greater than equal to. So if that, so in the slide I wrote that next greater equal to. Yeah, okay, thanks for the correction. And this one is called smaller equal to. Okay, so the same value is also allowed. Okay, is it clear now? Yep. Okay, so make sure that when you are doing IT++, check if it's not already end, because if you go beyond end, you're done, like you're doomed. It will give you segment fault. And before doing subtraction, like if you want to go backward, check first if it's begin or not. If it's not begin, then only do IT minus minus, or else you break. Like if there is no element, you need to handle that logic separately. Okay. And once you go one element back, you can easily return. You can easily return IT's frequency. Like the IT's frequency is saved in second, right? This is clear to all. Okay, so that completes this problem. So we'll discuss a lot of different syntax, and you would be using all of these syntax in different problems of STL. So this is like a quick rundown on mostly all of them. These are the frequent ones. These are the common mistakes as well that people do on IT math. Okay? What happens if we use lower bound in last case? If we use lower bound, so it will give you, so that will not consider the elements equal to x. Okay. So if once you do go one element back, it will not consider elements equal to x in that case. Okay. So lower bound gives you element, lower bound gives you the element, first element which is greater than equal to x, right? And if you do 1 minus minus, it will be the element that is less than x, but we want to find smaller equal to. So we do this, right? Clear with this one? What, we don't go back then? Okay, so if we don't go back and that element is not present, then it will be wrong, right? Because let's suppose you have 2 has frequency 3, 4 has frequency 4, and you do lower bound on 3, like you want to find the next, like previous smaller value of 3. So for 3, if you do lower bound, you will get 4, this element, but you wanted the frequency of this, right? In case of iterator, if we want to find the value, we have to use it.first, or star of it by default gives the value. No, it.first, star of it.first will also give you the value. Okay, so lower bound will give you this element or this particular same element, but we want this particular element or everything previous to this. So what we will use is upper bound and then go back once. Okay, so you need to carefully use lower bound and upper bound in different problems, and like if you can in fact master the usage of lower bound and upper bound, you can solve a lot of different problems. Okay. Okay. So now let's move to the next one. So there are 2 choices. Let's move to the more interesting one. Okay, so let's say we are trying to play a game. Okay, and there are n cards on a table. Okay, so there is a table and there are n cards on it. Okay, so the ith card has 2 values, ai and bi. Okay. Okay, just a quick move back to the previous problem, because we forgot about the time complexity of the things. What is the time complexity of all the operations that we designed? Like, let's talk about one. This takes like no time. This takes, what is the time complexity of this one for a one particular x? Sashi says log n. Okay, it's log n because insertion inside a map takes log n. Okay, this takes order 1. Now, what is the complexity of this remove? log n, because this takes log n, find takes log n, this also takes log n, because any map access will take you log n, okay, and erase also takes log n, okay. This, what is the complexity of getmin? Order 1, because mp.begin gives you the first iterator. It keeps it saved, so you can get it in order 1 and you can easily access the the first value, okay. Now get max, same as getmin, order 1, get sum, order 1. This one, order 1, right? No, this is order log n. So lower bound takes log n. So lower bound is something similar to binary search, and whenever we are talking about binary search, it's log n, okay. We will discuss binary search in a separate live session, and we will be clear with binary search after that for sure, okay. But for now, just assume that lower bound is binary search and it takes log n, okay. Are all 4 iterators saved and can we access in order 1? Yeah, all the 4 iterators access will take you order 1. Okay. It's not saved, but like it fetches that value in order 1. Like it's not saved, but it can be fetched in order 1, okay. Now get frequency of previous smaller element. This is also order 1, order log n, right? Okay. So because this is a function, begin is a function, it fetches that value inside it, but it's in order 1. Okay. So all of these are like on worst case order log n, right? So everything in order log n. That's quite good. So coming back to the new problem, you have a table and over there are n cards, okay, and each of the card has 2 values, ai and bi, okay. Like this will be a1, b1. So this is the first card, card 1, c1, like card 1, okay, let's call it card 1. So a2, b2, card 2, okay, so on, okay, up to an, bn. There are n different cards on the table. Now let's say me and you are playing a game such that I will take a card. Sorry, first of all, first you will take a card from the table and it will get removed. Then I will take a card and it will get removed from the table. Then you will take a card and it will be removed, so on, okay. Now when you take a card, we maintain 2 scores, okay. Let's say score 1, score A, or score B. So you are player A, I'm player B, okay. So if you take some particular card, your score increases by its AI value, okay. And when I take a particular card, my score increases by BI value, okay. So it's not same for both of us, like it's biased, okay. So if I get some particular card, my score increases by BI value. Now what you want to do obviously is like increase your score as much as you can, but it's not just your score, you want to like minimize my score as well. Like you want to keep the difference as max as possible. So what you want to do is you want to design some strategies so that the difference between your score and my score is as like large as possible, okay. So what would be your strategy to play the game? Is the question clear? First of all, so there are n cards. We will take turns. So you first take one card, I take one card. When you take a card, you get AI score. When I take a card, I get BI score. Now you would need to design a strategy for yourself. I will also have my strategy. I already know the strategy, so I will optimally play my game. So if you make some mistake, and I will try to take benefit of that. But you will need to take the cards in such a way so that the difference between your score and my score. So if I term that mathematically, you will have to like maximize score A minus score B. Okay, so you have to make your score as much as possible as well as push my score down. Like that's, so this is like a fair scenario, right? So what would be your strategy in the game? Which cards should you take? Sort the pairs in a set, store the pairs in a set, and sort it in decreasing order of difference and take cards sequentially. Okay, that's one strategy. Why do you need set? You can sort it in a vector, right? 2 arrays with different sorted values in decreasing order of AI minus BI and AI BI minus AI. Okay, fine. So let's take a scenario. Let's take some scenarios. Let's take, so you're saying, okay, so so the first value in a pair is your particular value, and then other one is mine. So this would be something. Let's talk about this. Okay, so let's suppose these are the two cards. Which card should you take? So these are A values and these are B values. So which one should you take? The first one or the second one? Can I have the answers on the chat from everyone quickly? Second one. Okay, so you are player A. So 4 answers. Second one. Amisha says first one. First one. Okay. Okay. Now we're saying first one. So there are only two scenarios, right? Either you take the second or you take the first. So let's analyze both of them. So if you take the second, you get a score of 3, and I take the first one, I get a score of 4. Okay. If you take the first one, you get a score of 2, and I take the second one, I get a score of 1. So which one is better, first or second? First, right? I hope this is clear to everyone. Everyone clear on that? Please give me a +1, because this is very important to understand the problem. Like, the condition needs to be clear. Yeah. So if you take the second card, you get a score of 3, right? And then I will take the first card, so I will get a score of 4. So the difference that you had to maximize is 3 minus 4, which is -1. Okay. But if you had taken the first one, you get a score of 2, and I get a score of 1, because I will be forced to take the second one. So the score is 2 minus 1, which is 1. So this is better, right? So taking the first one is better, not the second. But if you sort it by AI minus BI values, you will see that, okay, which one would you take? You will take the second one, right? So that's not the correct strategy. Any other ideas? If you have any doubt in the problem, feel free to ask in the chat. I'm repeating this again and again, like this course. So from the last batch experience, it helps to ask doubts. Like, I understand this is the first session, so you might not ask every doubt you have, but like, feel free to ask anything that comes up in your mind. It would hardly take me 10 seconds to clear that. Okay, so now how do you design a strategy for this one? Then any other strategy, any other tries, like guesses? No, A is less than B. I did not get you. Like, how do you decide which card to take? So you only take those cards which is A is less than B. That also does not work. Like, there are two cards, and like in both of them A might be less than B, right? Then how do you decide which one? That's not a proper like idea. That's not how you can maximize the difference. I'm not really sure what you mean by A minus A less than B. Any other ideas? I will give you 1 minute to think. Try some cases and try to think of some logic. So the sessions would not just be. Tanisha, you don't need to raise hand. You can just directly ask questions. And this is not a. Okay, sort in decreasing B, but also increasing A. That might not be possible, right? Like, what if there are two elements where like 3 elements? I can always design 3 elements, 1, 2, 3, and I will assign. So if I give them like 2, 3, 1, if you sort it in increasing order of A, it will not be in decreasing order of B, right? Like, you can always sort by 1. You cannot sort by both. Like, there might be elements that conflict that. So there is some strategy, there is some ordering of the elements by which you can decide in this problem. But what is that strategy? How do you design that? If it's very difficult, you can unmute and say it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, if we have, for example, the first card is 1, 2, the second card is 2, 3,
Yeah.
the third card is 3, 4, and let's take the fourth card to be. Yeah, so let this be 4, 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what's the
what I'm
strategy?
saying is, we'll put in my first priority would be 4 4, and then 3 4, and then 2 3, and then 1 2.
So this is like a very favorable scenario, right? Because in this case, every like you're always losing, like everything is less than this, and like differences are
Yeah.
same. Now,
But the basic idea is that my first priority to sort would be B, and if I have multiple elements having same B value, I'll sort A.
okay, I will give a counter example. I got your idea.
Yeah.
So you're saying you will sort by B, right? So let's make it fail. Let's say you have some B equal to 2, 3, A equal to 2. Let's say you try to take B this and you get 1, or you take 0 score. Like I think we can increase both the like all the metrics by some positive quantity. Like shifting it does not matter. The difference won't change. So if this is the case, you will try to take this one, right? And then I will take this one. So I will get a 3 score. So if I take this 1, this 2, then this gives me a score of 3, and you get a 0. So 3 minus 0 equal to 3. And if you take this and I take this is of course like losing for you for sure. Like this will be sorry, this will be 0 minus 3. I get a 3 score, right? So this is, sorry, let's clear this off. 0 minus 3, so this will be minus 3, but you can take this as, but if you take it the other way around, it will be you get 2, I get 4, that will be minus 2. So at least this is better, right? So we can, like, maybe I can change these values to some positive quantity and it will be positive. So if I take this 6 and this as 8, it will be some positive quantity, but I hope you got the idea, right? So it might not be best to take it sort decreasing with respect to A and then first half to A and the second half to B. No, that does not works. That does not work with the similar regions. So that's what choose the the max value of all. Okay, that's a new strategy. That's a good one as well. So so greedily I will take the one with which has the maximum value, right? But I think that fails on this case itself. If I greedily take the one which has maximum value, okay, this one, yeah, so this fails, right? So if you want to take the max, it will take this one, but then
No, I wasn't saying that.
so you are
I was
saying,
saying take the maximum value of both A and B. So
okay,
now if I'll
okay,
take one in that case so
so
that you won't get the higher value.
okay, so let's try to fail that as well. Let's say you have a higher value at my end, so you will try to take this one, um, but you don't get a lot of score on this, but you got okay, so you get a score of, let's say, 7 on this one, so you will not take this one, and I get a score of 0 on this one. Okay, yeah. So if you take this one and force me to take this one, so by your strategy, I think, okay, no, just one change of value. This will have to be 6, something like 6. Okay, so if by your strategy you will take this one, right? So it will give you 2 points and me 6. So this will be minus 4. But if you take this one, it will be 7 minus 8, which is minus 1, right? So like this is like you would like to lose with the as much less margin as is possible. So this does not also work. Any other idea? Sort in decreasing order of A plus B by B. Okay, how did you come out with this complex idea? A by B plus 1. Like, it's what you're saying is A by B plus 1, right? Amisha, am I right? A by B plus 1. Okay. Okay, this is something complex. This does not work anyways, but so why to add 1? Like, if you're sorting it by 2 values, then like adding plus 1 will not change the order. Oh no, I think it will change the order. No, these all are this ordinary number. A by B plus 1 also does not work. I think it will. Okay, I will come one by one. Amisha, this does not work. I'm not working on a case for this. Like, this is a division, so we might need to take some floats. Like, take care of cases where it becomes some floating number. But I think it will fail in one of these for sure. You will have to check. This does not work. Sort the array A and decreasing order. If AI is greater than B, then else choose AI or else choose BI. So we cannot take BI, right? It's on, like you take only A's. So Anurag is saying, why not just sort by A minus B and take the max present? Like, so sorting, what is the max? Like max A minus B, that's what you're talking about, Anurag? Yeah. So there was a counter example over here itself, right? AI minus BI. Yeah. So in this case, let's remove these. So I'm removing these cases over from here. So AI minus BI for this will be 2. This will be minus 2. So you will favor this element. So you will take this and I will take this. So you lead into this scenario. But preferably it's better to take this one and I get this one, right? Okay. Yeah. It's perfectly fine. Like there are a lot of different strategies. So there was a very easy strategy. Why someone might have guessed it. I'm not sure if I missed someone's chat. If I am A, sort array A and B in decreasing order. So how do you sort two things in a decreasing order together? Like I'm not getting exactly your point. A and B in decreasing order, both of them, like you cannot decouple them, right? AI and BI move together. It's not like you can take some other cards A and some other cards B. Like once that A gets removed, that particular B also gets removed. So you cannot like take that. You cannot take those two things independently. So AI and BI values are not independent. Understand this first of all. Okay. I think that fails your case. Like we can design obviously some case where it fails, but since it will take some time, I'm not moving into that. But AI and BI are not, like you cannot decouple them, because if some particular AI gets removed, you have to remove that particular BI as well. So it's not that simple to do that. And if you follow some greedy strategy, it will like boil down to that AI minus BI. Okay. So now, since I think no one of you could guess, any other guesses? Any other idea? Any other ordering that you would like to guess? Anyone? You can guess, even if it's wrong. AI multiplied by BI, anything, any random thing that comes up to your mind. Okay. Let's talk about just two elements, A, B, C, D, okay? Now, if I take this element and he takes this element, I get A, he gets D, okay? So the score that I end up with is A minus D, right? Now, if I take this one, so if I take this one first, sorry, this should not be 2, this should be 1. If I take this one first and this one second, it will be C minus B, right? Now, suppose it's better to take this one first than this one, okay? So in that case, this has to be greater than this one, right? Then only it's better, like that's what we are proving from result, right? That if you take this one first, then this one, then this has to be greater than this one, right? So A minus D has to be greater than C minus B in order to prefer this particular card. So if we just reorder this a bit, A plus B has to be greater than C plus D in order to this to be preferable. Okay. So now can someone write the answer in the chat, like how can we sort this? Or what would be our precedence? Which card should we take? Exactly. Exactly. Sort in decreasing order of the sum. So basically, if you even think about this intuitively, what is happening is there is a card. If it goes to your opponent, so there is a score. So if it goes to you, you get a plus A, and if it goes to your opponent, you get a minus B, right? So in total, the difference that is happening from like changing the position of that card from me to you is like A plus B, right? So that is like its value in terms of switch from me to you, right? So if I switch some particular card that goes to me, it goes to you, the total difference in the score that will happen is this particular metric. So that is what you should be like sorting it by. Okay, and this is a idea that we call like exchange arguments. Like you take two values and compare its two ordering, and you come to some particular constraint to sort it. This idea is called exchange argument, and this you can use in a lot of problems. Okay, so in this problem you can sort it by a plus b, right? So how many of you can like quickly write this? How many of you are confident that you can write this in code? Exchange argument. I can like, so there are problems on the, so you don't need to know the name. It's like a proving technique, to be honest. But it's like you just take the two and exchange the like order, and you see that okay, this is better. So how? What is the constraint? What is the equation by which you can govern this swap, this ordering? So in general, like I'm just quickly coding this so that if you don't know how to sort with custom comparator, you get to know about that. Okay. ARR of I dot first dot second. So you will get all of these on the algorithmic course itself. You don't need to worry about it. So there are questions on the practice STL towards the end. Nice idea, I think. So ARR of I dot first, ARR of I dot second. Now, if you want to sort them by the sum, so if you sort by default, like by the default sort constructor, you can use ARR of I dot first, I dot begin. This is how you sort the values. Okay. And then if you want to sort it by A plus B, you can write a custom comparator. Okay. And this comparator should return the truth of A should lie before B. So return A dot first plus A dot second should be bigger than B dot first. You don't need to pass in with ampersand. It's okay because it's just two values. So it will copy it. So it's not a problem in this. Okay. So if you return this, that means if this is true, then only A will lie before B. So the one which has bigger sum will lie before in this sorting. Okay. And if you just pass in over here in the sort by writing this, it will sort it by this condition, and then you will get the answer. Like you will get the ordering. Okay. And then you can obviously get the answer as well. Like you can just alternately add A and B to different variables and just get the difference if you want. Okay. Also, there is one more syntax that you can use, something called lambda functions, where you can define things over here itself. You can define things in over here itself. But let's skip that. It's not really important. You can. This is a very simple syntax itself. So it's there on the rundown. You can look at that. Okay. So one more problem before we end. I think we are going overboard, but I think it's important that we cover that one as well, because there will be problems related to that in the section. Okay. So we will just discuss the idea of that. Let's do that. So let's suppose you are given a lot of different numbers. So let's suppose you have to design some. Let's again go back to designing bags. Okay. So whenever I don't want to tell you what that is, I will take the use of name bag. Okay. And you need to insert elements into it, and you will have to give the sum of top k, like the top k elements in the bag. So top k means the maximum k values, max k values. How can you do this problem? So you can insert element and you can find the sum of the maximum k values that are present in the bag. Any ideas? Any brute force ideas would also work. Anything? Stack won't work. You will have to maintain a multi-set, or you can maintain a max heap. Yeah, exactly. For this problem, actually, the desired data structure is max heap, but you can also maintain multi-set. That's okay. Yeah, priority queue. Exactly. Heaps and like priority queue is implemented using heaps. So there is a structure called priority queue, okay, which implements functions like insert element X, remove the max, and get the max. Okay. So how do we use this structure to solve this particular problem? Okay. So we would like to maintain the priority queue of the top k elements somehow, right? Exactly. It's like maintaining a min priority queue of elements. So let's suppose we only know priority queue that removes max. How do you do it with that? Okay. So if you remove the element, then you will not be able to push back it again. Like it will be difficult. So you will have to do it. So yeah, this is what meant loop through top k times. This is a good idea. It will take an order k complexity, right? But we want to do it in better than order k. Maintain min peak priority queue of top k. So that's the correct solution. So what we can do is you can maintain the priority queue. Okay. So let's take some scenario. You take 3, 2, 1, 4, 1, so on, right? So this is the stream of numbers that is coming in, and you will maintain a priority queue which has size at max 3. Okay. Let's suppose k is equal to 3 in this particular problem. Okay. So k is fixed. So the k is fixed in this particular problem. Like the k will be fixed through all the queries. Sorry, I forgot to mention this one. The k is fixed for all the queries. Okay. So can you optimize on this then? So what we will do is we will insert the negative of this particular number, -3 in this one. Okay. This comes, we insert -2. This comes, we insert -1. Okay. Then when this comes, we insert -4. But we see that, okay, now the size of this particular element has become more than 3, right? So we have to remove one element. So what is the maximum element in this one for now? Anyone in the chat? -1, right? This is the maximum element. So just remove this. Okay. Also, you can maintain a particular variable which gives you the sum of elements inside this particular priority queue. So just like what we did earlier, keep a variable, and if you just maintain that, when you remove and insert numbers, you will get the negative of sum of top k values. Okay. So is the idea making sense, that you're keeping a variable which keeps the sum of this priority queue, and whenever you insert element, you insert the negative of that. Whenever you take out the negative of that. Okay. So that means the sum that you are actually storing is actually the negative of the sum that is actually there. Okay. So we are doing all of this to just ensure that when you use remove max, is actually removing minimum, because if you think about this, you just need to remove the minimum when you insert a new number, right? So there was 3, 2, 1. When 4 came, you have to remove 1 from it, because now this is the free maximum element, right? So we are taking negatives so that the minimum becomes maximum. So we can remove the maximum easily. Is this idea clear to all? So if it's clear to everyone, can I have a +1 on the chat? Aditya, no. Okay, I will explain it once more just to be sure. Okay, so basically you are having this priority queue. Insert key elements first. Then when you insert one more element, you see that the size became k plus 1. It's not valid, right? You have to keep k. So you remove the smallest one out of it. Then only you get the top k. And since we are keeping the numbers negated, the smallest one is actually the largest one over here. This is a max heap, right? Priority queue removes the max element. So the maximum removed will actually be the smallest one in the original numbers. So that will just maintain the property. And the sum will be just the negative of the original sum. So we will be able to maintain it, okay? So don't worry, even if you are not clear, you will be clear about this once you code the thing. I understand that things might not be very clear when you're just talking about the logic. We will not be coding this one. It's there on the it's there in the practice problems, so we will be able to code this one. I think we will keep the session up to this problem today. I will just leave with one particular problem which is open, like quite like an open-ended problem that you can think about. So let's suppose you insert this particular element inside this bag. What if you had to also remove element from this bag? And then you had to maintain for a fixed k the sum of top k elements. Will this strategy also work in that case, or will you have to change something else? Okay. So like this will be some problem that you can think about. We can take up this one in the next session, or you can even ask out if you want to. So I think this will be there in the so exactly this variant is there in the practice problem. So you will have to solve this one. So if you have to insert some particular element, you have to remove some element given to you, and you have to maintain the top case sum as well. How do you do that? Because this strategy might not work, right? Because once you remove this one from this priority queue, you no longer have track it. How will we ensure? No, PQ remove key. No, remove key takes order n, but we are removing the maximum one, right? Max. So top, if you have to remove the top element in priority queue, it takes order log n only. Okay. But how will we ensure the element being removed has contributed? Exactly. So that's the problem. Like that's the question. So that's where you will have to think, how can you maintain that? So there's come the problem, like the usage of some problem solving idea. How can you maintain this thing? Like even if you remove, because take this case that when you remove this one, let's suppose, and then you inserted 4. Let's suppose I now remove 4 from this set. Then you had to put that one back, right? But how do you know which one came back? Pair ID val time when it came. It will become difficult, I think, with that. When it came. So how do you know? Like, no, like it might have came up quite a long back, like over here, and then when you removed it, a lot of things might have changed between that, right? So keeping track of that is not very trivial. Stack of removed, it will not help. Keep an auxiliary max priority queue, this can help. So think about this. So this is also an idea. We will talk about this. So this will be there in the problems. So try to think about this. So if I just give away the solution, it will be very straightforward. Try to think about this and keep a policy in this course, because since you have not enrolled on 203 and 202, try to give time to the problem, because if you're giving 1 hour to the problem, try to think for the problem at least for 45 minutes, because once you get good hold of implementation, you will be able to implement it, but you need to build that problem solving idea. Okay. So the problem is, given a structure, you have to insert an element, remove a particular element if it's present, and given a fixed k, you will have to also find out the top k, like the maximum k values sum from the set. Okay, the problem that happens, okay, so let's say you are having 3 2 1 4 1, and then after this I say remove 4. So you first of all insert 3 2 1, and then you insert 4. You see there are 4 elements, so you remove 1. Then when I say remove 4, how do you know you have to put back this one or some other element before this? Like there might have been a lot of elements over here, right? which element to put back. You don't keep a track of which element was removed, right? So you have to revert back somehow to some particular configuration. Or how do you know which element to remove? So it might be a bit more complex as well. So 5, 4, 3, 2, -3, 4, -4, right? So in that case, first you have 5, 4, 3, then this 2 is not inserted. But then when you remove this, 2 gets inserted. But then if you insert 4, this 2 gets removed. But then if you remove 4, you have to know that this 2 needs to be inserted, right? So this is not very trivial to find out like which element to insert back. Okay. Because there might be some erase and inserts being done in between. Okay. So try to think about how you can implement this one. Okay. So I think that's all for today's session. I think it went a bit longer than usual, but I hope you enjoyed the problems.